Welcome to a new Lift Institute Experts session. In this series of short video discussions, experts from all around the world share their knowledge, experience, and views on a variety of vertical transportation subjects. Today we'll be talking about elevators and fire safety, and joining us for that discussion are Susan Eggink-Eilander from Antea Group, the Netherlands, as well as Johannes de Jong from Elevating Studio in Singapore. Let's welcome Susan. Hello, Susan.
Hello.
Yes. Susan, it's just as a normal member of the public, I'm familiar with the command to not use the elevator during a fire. And it's you have aging demographics now, and that's not as obvious a rule as it used to be. What are the facts and what are the factors there concerning an aging population?
In the Netherlands, we see that elderly people living independently at home, in their own familiar environment, in a place where they feel comfortable and safe.
Yeah.
We also see that people are getting older and need more care to be able to continue living independently at home.
Sure.
This daily support can be well offered in a home situation by professionals who help them with the daily routine. But in case of a fire, these professionals are not near the person in need.
Right.
So the mobility of the growing group of elderly people is so poor that the use of stairs is not an option. It's no matter of being able to go down the stairs slowly. It's a matter of not being able to use the stairs at all. So these people move around in wheelchairs or mobility scooters and will never be able to use the stairs.
Right.
So therefore, they will have to use an elevator to be able to leave the building safely.
Yeah.
The only alternative is that they are being rescued by the fire brigade.
Sure, yeah, and obviously that's a challenge, and it's always been true of people in wheelchairs, but you just, as you say, you see more and more of those over time. And
Exactly.
Is this taken into account enough whenever you build? There's so many high-rise buildings these days that it can't help but be a factor. So how do we account for that?
Well, we see two different situations. In the Netherlands and in other countries around us, there is more awareness about the need for a transition in which the elevator can be used in case of a fire.
Okay.
At the same time, there are many concerns and uncertainties about how this can be realized.
Right.
Let me explain. In high-rise buildings, support can be provided during evacuation by using the so-called evacuation elevators. These buildings are more common in large cities, also in the Netherlands, but the low-rise buildings from about 4 to 6 floors, we see them much more. Each village or small town has residential buildings of several floors with normal elevators.
Yes.
It is often thought that elderly people can choose whether to take the stairs or the elevator to leave the building. But unfortunately, there's a growing group of people who don't have that choice.
Yeah.
They can't use the stairs, and they are dependent on the use of the elevator to leave the building.
Yeah.
So we must therefore also create opportunities in the low, common stacked buildings to be able to safely escape the building. The elevator can play a significant role in that.
Okay, yeah. And are there other pros and cons to consider when you think about using the elevator in a fire?
Oh yes, indeed. Apart from the installation issues that we have and the issues with the people, we also need safe areas in a building. We call it compartments, which is a specific part of the building which is fire resistant, separated from the area which is threatened by fire and smoke. So people have to wait there and stay there safe until the elevator comes to pick them up. So the elevator has to move in that part of the building on a safe way, and the people have to wait there for as long as needed.
I see. Yeah, it's an interesting area, and I'm glad that we have experts such as yourselves to consider these complicated factors. Thank you, Susan. I'm going to direct my next question to Johannes de Jong. Johannes, welcome. And please tell us what role you think elevators can play in fire safety in buildings. How safe are they?
It's my pleasure being here. Thank you.
Yeah.
Elevators are a really expensive asset, and especially in high-rise buildings, their costs can amount to about 4 to 6% of the total construction costs.
Wow.
It would really be a shame not to use this asset during a fire.
Yeah.
And this asset is really dedicated to moving people. So during an evacuation, elevators can actually transport 1.4 to 1.6 times the amount of people they are designed for the morning peak. Yeah, so they can move 1.4 to 1.6 times more people than normal.
Oh.
Yeah, smoke is the main cause of death of fires.
Yeah.
So as long as smoke has not reached the elevators, there's actually simply no reason why elevators could not be used. They are safe. It takes time for smoke to spread through the building, and smoke is the killer.
Okay.
Yeah?
Interesting.
And nowadays, we have those smoke sensors and temperature sensing technology, so it's really possible to keep the elevators running and not to disable them as the actual codes demand at the moment.
Okay. In some cases, we're advised to stay put during a fire, and that does make a certain amount of sense. But Grenfell Tower in London was an example of where that had a tragic outcome. What's your opinion on that advice?
Well, the reason why we are asked to stay put is they want to check what the cause was and the severity of the alarm. Yeah, and unfortunately, a very large amount of the alarms are either false or unwanted fire alarms.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. If a toaster, for example, sets off the alarm worked fine.
Yeah.
Well, there is no imminent danger, and thus the alarm is an unwanted alarm.
Yes, that makes sense.
If the alarm, however, cannot be explained, it's a false alarm. But every now and then there is one that really requires action.
Sure. Yeah.
And during this period of checking, smoke can spread. It takes time to check this.
Yeah.
And this is exactly the time which I would like to use, the smoke, which I call the smoke safe time.
Yes.
To move the people with disabilities out of the building, even before the fire wardens or the firemen arrive at site.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's a good perspective on it. And how about stairs? How do those factor in?
Well, if you think about stairs, I'm working on buildings 60 to 100 floors high, 250, 400 meters high. And I know for a fact already that some 5 to 10% of the users will never be able to walk all the way down. And I'm personally one of them.
Yes.
Yeah. So put yourself in this guy's shoes. How would you react to the sign in case of fire, use the stairs, not the lift?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and you see these enormous towers going up in every major city around the world, so naturally that is the case. Are there other pros and cons of using an elevator in a fire? What else should we consider?
Well, I would definitely like to use the elevators in case of fire. We should not stay without using them. I've actually been preaching about what I called voluntary egress elevators, which I called V. Yeah, all you need is a couple of smoke and heat sensors in the hallways, in the hoistways.
Yeah.
Really minor costs for updates. Yeah. We must warn the disabled immediately. Yeah, we can't wait. With this stay put calls. We must get those people out immediately. So if we want these people, they can actually use the elevators. If we have a floor warden on the floors, they can check that the right people use the elevators.
Oh, I see.
And the others use the stairs.
Right.
The pluses of these systems are that we are using the already expensive installed asset. Yeah. The disabled can evacuate themselves before the fireman comes on site, and the fireman actually needs to start saving these people, which takes time. Yeah,
yes.
And his main task is actually to save the building, not really to save people. Yeah, he must save the building. Yeah, so this is an extra task which slows him down with his main task.
I see. Interesting.
Yeah? So the real minus of this, of course, that if smoke spreads quickly, you actually have to revert to the normal methodology used nowadays, which is go to the firefighter elevator lobby and stay put.
Interesting.
Yeah? But I would really like to get those people out of the building before it actually becomes an issue.
Yeah, and in your view, the elevator is an essential, in some cases, the only way to accomplish that.
Yeah, and if you remember the Grenfell case, the people were told to stay put.
Yes.
Yeah. staying put while actually they were not aware of an unknown issue with the facade of the building.
Yes.
Yeah. So that aggravated the situation quite heavily. So fire and smoke spread became a serious issue, and corridors were invested by smoke. So it was even hard to find the escape routes.
Sure.
Yeah. And those using the elevators, and by the way, that was really strange. The elevator was still moving, so they were not pulled down. Yeah. And those using the elevators actually took a very, very big risk. And we all know how unfortunate Grenfell ended.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, well, thank you. This is an interesting perspective on this, and it's something to consider as we move towards taller and more tall buildings in the future. Thank you very much for that, and thank you to both of our guests for some very interesting insight on this subject. And finally, thank you at home for watching another Lift Institute expert session. There are many other videos on the Lift Institute YouTube channel, so subscribe to that. If you have an idea for a future video topic, let us know below in the comments. Otherwise, we'll see you next time for another Lift Institute expert session.